You're listening to the Best Morning Routine Ever podcast, the show that proves no one stumbles upon success ever. With your host, Lou Need. Every Mondays and Thursdays, we deliver cold hard evidence behind the power of a robust morning routine. Get ready to be transformed by the renewal of your mind.
Welcome to the Best Morning Routine Ever podcast. Today I have the honor of introducing Jason Berkowitz. He is a huge SEO fan and has been working in SEO since, oh my goodness, how long has it been? Since 2010.
Yeah, just about a decade. It's so weird.
Yeah, he is the founder of Break the Web. Jason will delve into details about what the company does. Since 2010, Jason has been a prominent figure in the New York City SEO scene. Starting as a search engine optimization freelancer, Jason successfully ranked his first firm, SEO Services NewYork.org, at the top of the Google search results. As this led to growth, Jason expanded his SEO company into the hybrid inbound marketing agency that it is today, called Break the Web Digital Marketing. Since then, Jason has spoken at various marketing and business events, been a guest on multitude of podcasts, and has consulted with some of the most significant brands in the world. Today, we will discuss search engine optimization, how Google algorithms work, SEO versus Google Ads. We will talk about digital marketing agency leadership, finding the right team, and finding your niche. Jason, you've been with names like Panera Bread, AutoZone, to name a few, bringing the most efficient, most targeted traffic to these companies. Welcome to the show, and tell us about Break the Web.
Thank you so much for having me, Lunid. It's a pleasure to be here. To get right to it, I think you really hit some of the good finer points about us and about myself in that intro. But yeah, essentially, we are an inbound marketing agency where our goal is to generate qualified traffic for our clients, typically traffic that also matches a specific intent. So we try to dive deep into audience behaviors. What issues are they having in which they might be making a search term on Google or making a search query on Google, and try to make sure that the targets and the search terms really match that intent, and also that the landing page matches that intent, because if you're not getting a conversion, then SEO is really just worthless. Yes.
And so your company, you don't help with website building. You just you work with just the marketing piece of it.
We don't do website development and website design. We do have a developer on our team to help, but mostly when it relates into SEO stuff, whether it's technical SEO, optimizing some of the coding, fixing up some speed issues, accessibility, wherever it might be. But we don't offer web design and development.
Right. Tell us about SEO and how that differs from Google AdWords.
Absolutely. So SEO is primarily for the purpose of trying to, and how I define it, for the purpose of trying to signal trust, relevancy, and authority going to a website. And what you'd see below the ads of Google search results is essentially the byproduct of an algorithm that uses thousands of different metrics to gauge that relevancy and trust of a website, and creating that correlation between what the website does or who they serve, coupled with incoming trust signals from around the web to match it with search intent and the reason why people might be making searches and what that specific search term or keyword might be. So that's kind of a SEO in a nutshell. And essentially what we're doing is trying to increase positions for websites in the organic search results, which is really not pay to play like Google Ads might be.
Yeah, because Google Ads is not free, but isn't, and I understand Google changes their algorithm quite frequently, so it's hard to actually manipulate this.
They say they make changes every single day. It could be a couple of hundred a year. The exact numbers, it's hard to tell. But when you have a good idea on what Google wants and what they're looking forward to in the future, it allows I don't want to say manipulation, because that can be kind of ambiguous and might lead to a quote unquote wrong path. But when you have a good idea on what they want, it allows you to create a process and an execution strategy that's focused on the long-term goal versus short, quick wins that really might not last very long. We, for example, have yet in all these years to give our clients both an algorithmic penalty or a manual penalty. I've done so on testing websites just for the purpose of trying to get penalties. But yeah, things are always changing and things are always becoming increasingly harder for some old school SEOs that might fail to adapt or evolve their techniques. But if you are in SEO and you're looking to run an SEO campaign, you should be ready for an evolution and be willing to evolve your strategies.
Mm-hmm. Now, with SEO campaign and keyword ads, I understand that more so than I understand off-page SEO. What is off-page SEO?
Yeah, the idea of off-page SEO essentially really is incoming trust signals from around the web, typically in the form of backlinks. So it's kind of when a link has a clickable piece of text that a website has a clickable piece of text that when clicked, of course, goes back to your website. That's how Google signals trust being passed from one website to another. One analogy I like to use is that link building or links going from one website to another mimics real world word of mouth. So for example, hey, Looney, do you know a plumber that I can use to fix my issue? Yes, you can use ABC Plumbing. I'm going to trust ABC Plumbing because it came from a referral from you. So that makes ABC Plumbing more trustworthy in my eyes. And when Google sees a link coming from one website going to another, they see it as more trustworthy because another website is willing to, quote unquote, put their reputation on the line and link to it.
And this is as simple as a text, a blog, conversation going between two people online?
Simple, probably not simple. The acquisition of these type of links are more of a harder process. But yeah, in its simple form, having a clickable text from a third-party website going back to your website on a broad level is really the gist of off-page SEO and link building. Now, the quality of that link and the target site linking to the origin site linking to your target site is super important as well. You have to keep in mind, what does Google think of this origin website? Are they sending organic traffic to it? If they are, absolutely. If they're not, or it might be associated with some shady industries or shady neighborhoods, then it might actually devalue your trust to a certain level. Obviously, some things are beyond your control, but the idea is to get good quality backlinks and relevant backlinks, stuff that, for example, matches your industry.
Yeah, this is nowhere near simple because I haven't been able to wrap my head around it for some time. As far as I go as far as keywords, and you're telling me it's in depth and complex, and it's almost mystery.
Yeah, the overall strategy, has various moving parts, and keywords are a huge part. Obviously, when you create a page that you want to essentially get organic traffic from, you might start with some broad level keywords or targets in which you can aim to optimize the page. Again, that's all broad level, and then it's coupled. There's a good 50-50 split between on-page SEO and off-page SEO, and if one of these aspects are lacking, it may hinder the end result.
Right. What about SEO for social media?
Social media is more of kind of an outbound strategy, I believe. To rank organically in social media would probably revolve around their specific factors. For example, Facebook is very big on engagement. Yep. So to get more visibility on Facebook, they really don't care much about followers anymore a page might have, but more so the type of engagement. People, are they liking it, laughing at it? Are they clicking on the links? Are they essentially following it and commenting? That's probably, for example, Facebook's biggest algorithmic factors. But it's not something we really do. We do social media marketing, but more so with paid advertising. Organic reach on Facebook is a bit a whole completely other area.
Because it'll vary for Twitter. It'll vary for Instagram because they have their different outlets and their different criterias of engagement. Because Twitter, it's a reposting. The number of reposts is considered more engaging than likes.
Yeah, it's kind of like being social. Is your post or is your status being social? Are people being social with it? And that seems to be like right there in the name, in regards to getting that organic reach from social media.
Yeah. What prompted you to start Break the Web?
I got into it kind of by a requirement or necessity, where I had a business here in New York City that was failing to get good qualified inbound leads. I had a personal training company and was absolutely exhausted by the struggle of outbound marketing. So a simple Google search led me how to get rankings for specific search terms. How can I be number one for personal trainer NYC? And it was that rabbit hole that led me into just testing, learning more about SEO. At the time, we successfully ranked our website on Google for personal trainer NYC. And I had a bit of a paradigm shift where I fell more in love with SEO than I did with personal training. So I sold off the personal training business and started doing SEO freelance. It was kind of a calling in a way because I used to build websites when I was 12 or 13, around that area. But yeah, I started doing SEO as a freelancer. And as you start getting more work and you need to start delegating tasks just to maintain your sanity, before you know it, you have an agency. And my first freelance website was SEOservicesNewYork.org. It's still live. Still ranks on Google for New York SEO related search terms, but it's kind of acted more of a lead generation website for us because let's be honest, SEO Services New York just absolutely sucks as a brand name. So as we started focusing more on inbound marketing, I didn't want to limit ourselves just to SEO. And we launched Break the Web in 2018.
Wow. Now, I love that you filled a need. There was a necessity that you saw a problem, you saw a pain point, and you tackled it. And then, boom, Break the Web is born. And that's so important. It's so crucial to actually find a way to add value in that way, to add value to others' life in that way.
Absolutely. It's kind of like that Maya Angelou quote. People will forget what you said. They will forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. And if you can take a business from practically nowhere to being visible online, and the byproduct that comes from all of that could be business growth, could be more employees, could be more stability for your family. That's just exciting for everyone around.
Yeah, so adding tremendous meaning into everyone's life. It's a society at large, and I love the way you phrase that. So what's required for growing a marketing agency?
For growing, a lot of things. Revenue is probably one of the biggest ones, but also one that's tends to be misspoken about or not spoken enough about is processes and systems. Having decent execution strategy that won't really kill your margins. If you're doing marketing, you could technically have a certain budget to work with for a client, but how much time are you spending on that client? Are you eating up your quote unquote allocated hours just with not money, but just time invested in the campaign? So figuring out systems and processes can help automate some of the minute tasks, which could essentially take you 10 minutes, could be condensed to 1 or 2 minutes, which is an extra 8 minutes being allocated towards working on the brand versus in the brand.
That's a very good segue. So don't break the bank, but how can businesses utilize SEO with a small budget, and how much should one invest in SEO utilization?
That's a very also ambiguous question the pricing might vary from agency to agency. Small businesses, that is typically our client is small to medium sized businesses. If you do have a healthy budget, typical SEO campaign might be $1,500 a month plus, just because everything has changed. And like we said earlier, there's been a lot of evolution in SEO, where back in the day, 10 years ago, we were able to get SEO rankings at the click of a button. Super easy, not a lot of work or labor had to be involved. And the times have changed, where everything's a bit more manual. And just because there's a lot of work involved, it does take a little bit of time to start seeing results. You typically want to have an SEO campaign probably a bit more than $1,000. Anything lower might seem a bit shady. Depends on who you hire. If you hire an agency or if you hire a solo consultant, it might be a little bit cheaper. But also the biggest thing, try not to make decisions, and I say this a lot, based on money or emotions. Try to make decisions based on logic. So if this SEO company is presenting case studies and testimonials and kind of showcasing the value that they can provide in a campaign, let that be a deciding factor more so than the budget. And then, of course, if your budget meets what they're proposing, then it's a win-win for everyone.
Yeah, and being patient with the process. It's money invested. For any small company, $1,500 a month can be reaching deep into their pocket. And so the need to be patient is crucial and will be a big factor here. How long do you anticipate it will take to start seeing results?
That's another vague question.
I know.
I know the SEO industry is so vague just because you're very reliant on third parties. You're very reliant on an algorithm to function as we would hope. So we tell our clients that if we follow our timeline, you can start seeing some great improvements within 3 months. But the rest of the timeline, and again, 3 months is very vague. What is improvements? Is it going from not being in the top 10 pages of Google to being on page 5? That could be considered an improvement. It is going from page 8 to page 3. That's a big improvement. It's also worth noting that the closer you get to page 1, the more competitive it gets and the harder it gets. So it is easier to go from page 8 to page 3 than it might be to go from page 3 to page 1. So we tell our clients within 3 months, they'll typically notice some great improvements. The average SEO campaign, we might give recommendations or timelines of execution that last 6 months, that last 12 months. If it's very competitive, might be a little bit longer, but we'll try to get some quick wins way before that. Our goal is to really showcase KPIs and key performance indicators from the campaign. So we really wouldn't try to set a campaign strategy that says, oh, just hire us for a year and then you'll get your results after a year. We have to show something actionable within a few months, or else why would the client continue to work with us?
Yeah, and it sounds like you are you do your due diligence and you're working with the client, having their best interest in mind and working with them around the clock. So it will be worth it for the client to actually go with a service like yours, because it's showing it's not a success overnight type of process.
Exactly. So we also don't deal with contracts, essentially, and we phrase that as we want to be held fully accountable. And of course, if you're not seeing the results in a few months, and again, results being very ambiguous, then you should feel comfortable and have the freedom to get up and walk away and not be stuck with resentment and paying for a company that just sucks to work with. We've spoken with agents, with brands before that have reached out to us and said, hey, I'm looking for a new SEO company. I have 3 months left to my current contract and just be looking for someone to take over when we switch. And I'm like, you want to start now, but you can't because you're locked in a contract, and that just sucks. So we essentially have to earn our clients' business each month. So it's a bit more accountable on us. It's also a bit unheard of in the SEO industry, but we try not to get our clients in an uncomfortable situation.
It sounds like a risk that is involved with digital marketing.
Yeah. Just because everyone's looking for direct return on investment, which can be super hard, not only from SEO, but even with paid advertising. If you're doing brand awareness campaigns, how can you justify a return on investment for brand awareness? Somebody might see your ad and then go into a store and see it in store. And there you go. You have a return on investment essentially, but there's no way to track it.
Mm-hmm. So would you agree and say that getting into a contract is one of the bad SEO practices?
I don't want to say it's bad, but probably go for a short-term SEO contract. Maybe see, okay, can we do a 3-month contract? And we ask our clients to trust us enough to last at least 3 months, let us prove our work, get an idea for how we go about the process, get an idea for who we are as an agency on a much deeper level. Maybe a 3-month contract. And then after the 3 months, maybe have a reevaluation. And if contracts are within their business model, which it very well could be and makes sense, then try to say, okay, let's do a 6-month contract or let's do a 12-month contract, just so you are more confident in their services and you're not held in the long term.
Mm-hmm. So what are some other bad SEO practices?
A lot of SEO specialists really fail to evolve. Again, their tactics and strategies. Surprisingly, some are still using some really old school methods that end up just doing absolutely nothing for you. They won't really harm you nowadays, but they're just absolutely worthless. And I was actually speaking to a colleague of mine who also owns an SEO agency, and he was talking about how one of their clients was telling them a story about their previous SEO agency, and their SEO agency didn't actually start delivering some work until they said 9 months later, okay, what is going on? And then they start saying, oh, here's some links. What about all the links that were built in those first 9 months? So that's another one, is that companies are just in it for the quick revenue, just might be doing some old school things and might not even know better. And as we get older, we get stuck. And we're very habitual creatures. And when we get older, we get very stuck in our ways and not really willing to transform new ideas. So that is definitely something that a lot of companies do, is they fail to evolve.
You said it best. We are habitual creatures and have a hard time railing away from our habits, good or bad. And so this is a good segue because we can get into your morning routine. You went from personal fitness to building and running your own business. Tell us about your morning routine and how do you get up, dress up, and show up to run your business daily, Jason?
Yeah, from fitness to tech nerd. I wake up really early. So one thing I did was try to find my chronotype, which is essentially trying to find out what works best for you in terms of productivity during the day. What I found was no matter what time I wake up in the morning, whether it is 4 a.m. or whether it is 9 a.m., I crash no matter what around 2 to 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I just start getting sluggish and productivity goes down. So my idea was to try and get as much productivity in before that crash. So I wake up really early, 4 a.m. I'll spend an hour just, responding to emails, maybe listening to an audiobook, waking up naturally, hit the gym, get out and just start working. I tend to do this 4 to 5 days a week.
And then first thing I heard about the chronotype, it talks about, was it the different animals? What is the
exactly.
author's name? I read the book. Yeah. I read the book. Yeah. There's the lion, there's the bear, there's there's dolphin.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm a lion as well.
Oh yeah.
Early riser, but we'll crash at midday at the end of the day and want to sleep early because we're done hunting. We rise early because we are hunters by nature. And so we get a lot more done during the day. I read the same book. That's just fascinating. I will have an episode on this. So guys, stay tuned.
It's really valuable.
I love that you consume stimulating content first thing in the morning. You say it's an audiobook of some sort of podcast to get the mind, get some positivity up in and listening to some good stuff in the morning.
Yeah, I think when you wake up, you can either make a choice. You can turn on the TV or watch YouTube videos, or you can get in that productive mindset. And if you start watching YouTube videos, and it does happen, and not every morning's perfect, but then you get in that rabbit hole of YouTube videos. And before you know it, you're on a video that's 30 minutes long. And that 30 minutes is a long time in the morning, especially when you're trying to get by your desk and start working by a certain time. That really eats it up. So I try to get a bit more, something more productive, like an audio book, a cup of coffee, maybe go for a longer walk with my dog in the morning and have that audiobook in my ears, kill two birds with one stone and still be effective and get in the zone, wake up a little bit. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's the same way that I consume content. I'm able to read over 50 books a year because I listen at work. I have a 9 to 5 and I'm at a desk. I work with big data. And so I rarely interact with customers, even internal customers. So I consume a lot of books doing work. I have my headphones on and I listen to tons and tons of books. And you said about waking up and making that choice, whether to do something mentally stimulating and positive or watch YouTube. And the same goes for social media. Mm-hmm. You go onto Facebook and IG and you're spending 15 minutes turn to half hour. And like you said, that's very crucial for your morning because you set the tone. What you do in the first 8 minutes set the tone for the rest of your day. And if you are spending it with, what's going on with the world, be it news or other people's business versus putting the time towards yourself, your day is already thrown out of whack.
Absolutely. And even if you do need to have that fix for social, it might even be best just to get it out of the way first thing in the morning as well, just so you're not spending your day kind of wondering, hey, did my friends post on social or did my status get likes? Bang it out of the way, spend 10 minutes in the morning, get it over with, and then you're clear for another few hours to not have to go on social, if that is a fix you need, just because some people are social dependent.
Yeah. They need it. Gotta have it. I love the making up your mind in the morning and choosing what content to listen to first thing in the morning. One thing that I do that helps with making up my mind is I get up, I make my bed. And the current Admiral talked about it, about make your bed. There's a whole book on it, but it talks about, I quote it by saying, make your bed, a made up bed is a made up mind, because you've decided first thing in the morning to do something productive, to do a task, and that will lead to more tasks in the later on throughout the day.
I normally don't, but tomorrow, because of you, I'm going to make my bed. And I promise that will happen. I think it's a great idea.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. I'm glad you take that away. So Jason, thank you so much for coming on the show. I mean, you covered so much today on SEO versus Google AdWords, and SEO is no easy task. It still is a mystery to me.
Maybe a longer conversation for another time.
Yeah, absolutely. Please let us know, how can we connect with you?
LinkedIn professionally is probably the best way, or breaktheweb.agency. So that's our agency website, breaktheweb.agency, or find me on LinkedIn, Jason Berkowitz.
Jason, thank you so much for coming to the show.
Thank you, Lunita. It was a pleasure.
All right, morning enthusiasts, it's time to listen up. As you know, I am a big fan of books. I strongly believe you gotta feed your mind. I personally read over 50 books a year. How, you may ask? I listen. I listen to audiobooks, the quickest and fastest way to consume content. Audible and I are offering you a free audiobook with a 30-day trial membership. Just go to audibletrial.com/BMR ever to get yours. It's that simple. Sign up and I will see you at the top of your best morning routine ever. Stay blessed.
All right, morning enthusiasts, that's it for today's show. Thank you for tuning in. If you love the Best Morning Routine Ever podcast, we'd love to hear from you. So go ahead and subscribe, rate, and give a review on iTunes or Google Play. While you're at it, tell a friend about the show. Be sure to visit bestmorningroutineever.com and our Facebook group to join the conversation, access the show notes, and discover our fantastic free bonus content. Until next time,